Welcome back to Play and Review, folks. So, I just spent $5 on Unearthed, Trail of Ibn Battuta. So you don't have to, and trust me, you're not missing much. This game has been called a low-budget Uncharted clone, and after playing through it, I can see why. Unearthed tries hard to bring the thrill of treasure hunting to life, but it's held back by rough execution, poor optimization, and design choices that fail to create a true adventure experience. Let's dive in and see why this one just doesn't live up to its promise. Unearthed was developed by Semaphore, a Saudi company backed by the government, specifically through the King Abdulaziz City for Science and Technology. This government support helped fund the game, aiming to bring cultural and historical representation of the Middle East to the adventure genre. However, despite the intention to highlight Arabic history, the execution falls short, leaving the gameplay experience lacking. Starting with the story, the game follows treasure hunter Faris Jawad and his sister, Dania, as they search for relics tied to the legendary explorer Ibn Battuta, just like Uncharted or Tomb Raider. It's a unique angle that could have offered something fresh, especially since it focuses on Middle Eastern history. But despite this interesting premise, Unearthed does a poor job of creating an immersive setting. The storytelling feels forced and rushed, with characters that barely develop and a plot that never really draws you in. The lack of atmosphere is evident, and you never quite feel like you're on a true adventure, just moving from one uninspired set piece to another. Like I said, Unearthed is often called a low-budget Uncharted, and it's easy to see why. It tries to mimic the Uncharted formula with platforming, shootouts, and puzzle elements, but everything feels rough and unpolished. The controls are clunky, making platforming awkward and sometimes outright frustrating. Combat is basic and unresponsive, with bullet sponge enemies and AI that feels completely outdated. There's a clear attempt to create cinematic moments, but the game simply doesn't have the polish to pull it off. Frame drops are frequent and noticeable, which really breaks the immersion. Whether you're in a firefight or just trying to explore, the game's performance can dip unexpectedly, making an already rough experience even worse. The pacing also struggles, with no real flow to the gameplay. Instead of feeling like an epic adventure, it feels more like a series of disjointed tasks that lack any real excitement or payoff. Now let's talk about the visuals, because let's just say they're rough. The graphics look outdated for a game that's supposed to capture the vast landscapes and architecture of the Middle East. You're met with bland textures, rigid character models, and awkward animations that look out of place. The environments, while inspired by real locations, lack any real depth or detail, which is especially disappointing in a game focused on exploration. Instead of feeling like you're in ancient ruins or bustling cities, it often feels like you're wandering through poorly rendered levels that haven't been fully realized. Even in the Gold Edition, which was supposed to improve the visuals, the game still feels visually lackluster and hardly keeps up with even mid-tier games from its release period. The soundtrack is one of the few things Unearthed does somewhat well, featuring traditional Middle Eastern music that complements the setting. However, even here there were issues. Several sections in the long play video had to be muted due to copyright claims, unfortunately. Beyond the music, the sound design is underwhelming. Sound effects lack impact, with flat gunfire, repetitive footsteps, and often missing environmental sounds, leaving the world feeling empty. Voice acting ranges from decent to downright awkward, with some lines delivered so flatly that they break immersion. Faris and Dania's interactions had potential to deepen the story, but the dialogue is often stilted and poorly delivered, adding to the impression that this was a project in over its head. Adding to the frustration, Unearthed, Trail of Ibn Battuta was only the first episode of a planned series. The ending hints at future episodes, but they were never released, and it's widely believed that the project was quietly canceled due to poor reception and low sales. Initially, Semaphore confirmed that Episode 2 was in development, intending to continue the story with characters from Ibn Battuta's time. However, as time went on, there was little communication from the studio, leading to speculation that the game was shelved. Many players were left with an unfinished story and an incomplete adventure, which further compounded the game's disappointing reception. So, should you give Unearthed a try? Honestly, I spent $5 so you don't have to. And I'd say, save your money. This game might be interesting if you're curious about Middle Eastern culture and gaming, but as a gameplay experience, it's disappointing. Between the frame drops, rough controls, poor visuals, and lackluster story, Unearthed feels more like a tech demo than a full-fledged game. If you're looking for adventure, there are better places to find it. Let me know in the comments if you'd play it just for curiosity's sake, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more reviews.